Hey guys, it's Yvette and I have my puzzle mystery quilts for the Cotton Cuts Name of the Rose quilt, and this is the large Bewitched quilt. So I am excited to get these put together. I love how they come once a month and then you put this piece together, you put it away, and then at the end of the 10-month period, bada boom, bada bing, you get to put the whole thing together and you got this great, awesome quilt. I don't know if you just heard that, but that's Mr. Spooky Scout jumping into his ball pit. Yes, we do have a ball pit for the cats. And right now, Spooky Scout's the only one who uses it. That's how come I know it's Spooky Scout. Anywho, so here are all of our pieces. I have gone through the list and made sure that I had all of my pieces. And it looks like at the end of all of the sewing, we will have 10 pieces that we will be adding to our collection of clues. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take all of these and I'm going to scooch them to the side and use whatever we need one at a time. This just makes it a little bit easier. And I will also pull out my little fabric cheat sheet, which will help. Okay, so here it is. Here's my little fabric cheat sheet. And so now we know, if I scooch that over there, that we are going to be adding the small triangles A and C, and we are going to make 4 of those pieces to start. So A and C is the white and the pink with the little hash marks. So one moment. Okay, so we're making 4. Let's do, this is the C and it's going to go down here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to put one of the white ones to the top left. Okay. So we're going to go to the sewing machine and we are going to sew these together to make squares. So we're going to turn them right sides together, like so. And if you're using a 1/4 inch foot, you can go to the sewing machine and just sew that down right here. And I'll be right back as soon as we have that done. Okay, so I have my 4 squares right here. They're supposed to be like this actually, with my C to the bottom right. And on the instructions, it did say to press towards C, so I did. I pressed toward the pink. And now we are going to add a C square to the right. So let me get those. Okay, and we will need 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add these C squares to the right side of our half square triangle, and we are going to then fold it right sides together like this and sew our 1/4 inch seam right here. So as soon as I get those done on all 4 of these, I'll be back and we'll move to the next step. Okay, so we have our 4 pieces right here, that those are done. So we're going to set them to the side for a moment. And now we are going to make 4 rectangles where we are joining squares C and B. So that's C and B, just one moment. Okay, so our C is this lovely pink fabric, and we are making 4. And then we are taking our B fabric and putting it on the right side of that. Okay, and so when we go to the sewing machine, we are going to take our fabric to the right or the left. It doesn't matter. You just need to make sure that they are right sides together like this. And then we are going to sew right here a 1/4 inch seam. And when we are done with those 4, I will come back and we will move on to the next step. Okay, so I have these all sewed up and ready to go, and the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the 4 that we had made in the first couple steps, and we are going to add them to the top of the ones we just made. So if I take just one of those, what we're going to do is we are going to flip them right sides together. And because of the way they've had us pressing them, they will have, their seams will nest really nicely. And you can feel that with your finger that they are butting up against each other. And that way you know that you're going to get a perfect point right there. So we are going to head over to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here. Once I get all of these joined together, we will come back and we will have step number 5. Okay, so here we have our 4 pieces that we have just finished sewing together into one square. And now we are going to take the shorter rectangles of A and we are going to sew them to the left side of this square, just like this. So if I take my pieces, then I will flip them right sides together. And I will sew my 1/4 inch seam right along here. So as soon as I get all 4 of these done, I'll be back and we will move on to step 6. Okay, so here we are. We have all of these sections sewed together, and now we have one more piece that we're going to add. And that is the longer of the rectangles that we are going to sew to the top of the square. Now, once we have these all together, they should measure approximately 9.5 inches square, and then we'll be all done. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take one of these pieces and one of these, and we're going to flip it right sides together, and we're going to sew right along here a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So once I have those done, I will come back and we are going to be moving on to section 4B, where we're going to make the other 6 pieces or clues for this month's quilt, or this month's pieces, or this month's clues. Whatever you want to call them. We're going to be moving on to that next section. Okay, so I have finished putting together these 4 squares, which are going to finish up our section 4A, and I will show you if you think that you're the only one who never has a correctly sized square, I can tell you that you are incorrect, my friend. Because my squares are always too small, and as you can see, this is a 9.5 inch square ruler. I've got it lined up on the top and sort of on the side because I'm not quite making it in some spots. But you can see, like down here in some areas, I'm like a whole 1/8 of an inch off. Like right there. This one doesn't quite make it. And then over here, again, 1/8 of an inch off. So my squares are never as big as they're supposed to be. But, I mean like never, guys. Okay, mine always end up that way. But here's what I can tell you. I always absolutely am in love with my quilt. So I honestly don't worry about it too much because mine all end up sort of like that. And for the most part, I'll sort of get all of my little points in and stuff. So I just don't worry about it. I always love my quilt when it's done. And as long as I am pretty close, I truly don't worry about it. So what I do though, is I will trim up the sides because all these little scraggly, that just kind of makes me, like when you go to, you know, like when we're going to go to put the whole thing together, if you pull these out and then there's like all these I don't know about you, maybe it doesn't bother you. And if it doesn't, oh my goodness, you're so lucky because it just kind of bothers me. So I just clean it up like the tiniest bit. So what I do is I make sure that I'm kind of lining up somewhere. So I've got one of these lines that I'm making sure I'm going to make it pretty square. And I'm going to go as close to the edge as I possibly can, not cutting off hardly anything at all. But all of the little scragglies will be gone. What did I do with my rotary cutter? Oh, there it is. Okay. And I mean, seriously, that's all I do. There's going to be barely anything coming off. It's going to be like scragglies. Right? So that comes off and all you're left with is just a nice clean edge. That way when you're going to put all of your clues together, you'll at least feel like this one here, I'll probably just leave that because that's fine. That's fine. I just don't want it to be like this where there's, you know, got all that loose stuff in there. It just makes me feel better if they're a little bit cleaned up. And let's see. And see, sometimes I get this where it's like kind of, I know that it needs to be out here as far as possible. So I'm just going to leave it like this. And I might have cut a little bit off up here, but I can live with that. And I'll just pull that off by hand. What is that? I don't know what that is. Okay. And then as far as down here, I have quite a bit of a little gap right there. So I just try to be careful with it. I don't want to cut off a whole bunch of area because obviously doing that would, you know, not be helping at all. So let's see. That looks okay. And like I said, I'm just cutting off the slightest little bit anyway to get the little pieces off. So I'm not really going to town on it. All right, so then I have that one. And let me just finish up the rest and we'll move on to section 4B. Okay, so here are my section 4A clues, and I'm going to set them aside and we're going to work on section 4B now. Okay, so for section 4B, we are going to start by making some flying geese. And we're going to make 6 of each of these. So I'm going to take a large D triangle, which is the blue hash, and small A triangles, which are the white. Okay, let's scooch this over for a minute. And again, we are making 6. Let's see, I'll just move that for just a minute. So we need a little extra room here. Okay, so then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 6 of these small white triangles. For me, they're white. These are the A triangles. And you can pick either the left or the right, but you should do one side first, and then we're going to come back and do the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these and fold them down right sides together, just like so. And then we're going to head over to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here on each of these triangles. And as soon as I have that done, I'll come back and we will be ready to add the second piece. Now, the one thing that I will tell you is we are pressing towards A, which is the, for me, it's this little white triangle. So you will make sure that your piece looks just like this, and then you're just going to fold it over and press this way, and that will give you a pressing towards A, just like you need it. Okay, so we have finished adding the left side on, or at least that's the side I put on first. And now we're just going to add another piece to the right side, and that will make our flying geese. And it's basically the same thing, except that we are sewing onto the other side is all we're going to do. So we're going to take the other white, small white triangle, or small A triangle, I should say. We're going to put it on the other side. And it's nearly the same thing. We're just going to fold them down right sides together, just like we did on the other side. And now, when we're doing that, we are going to be sewing them on top of the piece that we just put on, and that's going to make the flying geese. It's going to give us our nice point. So now we're going to go back and we are sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance right down this side, and then we are going to press toward A again, and we'll come back and we'll be on step 3. Okay, so we have our first flying geese ready, and now we're going to set these aside and make another set. And we're going to use these fabrics. These are the B and D. So this is my B and this is my D. So we're again going to make 6 of these. And let me just scooch that again. Again, 6 flying geese, just like we made just now. And we're going to take the D fabrics and put them to the top left. Okay. And just like we did with the first ones, we're going to fold them down right sides together. And now we're going to sew the 1/4 inch seam line right down here like we did with the first ones. And again, we are going to be pressing toward our D fabric. So we'll just come back to the ironing board, give this a quick press, flip it over, and then press it toward D. So as soon as I have that done, I'll come back and we will add the second little triangle to the flying geese. Okay, so we have half of our flying geese ready, and now we're going to take the other fabric D and put it on the right side. And just like we did on the first one, and like we did on that first set of flying geese, we're just going to fold them down right sides together. And then we are going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right down this side of all of those. And when we're done with that, we're going to press toward D. And then we'll come back and we are going to add our next piece. It'll be step number 4. Okay, so we have our second set of flying geese ready, and now we're going to add a rectangle, a small rectangle of our fabric D. And so what we're going to do is on each one, we're going to take one flying geese and we're going to put one rectangle on top. We will fold it down right sides together and then sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here. Now, after we finish sewing all 6 of these together, we are going to press toward the D rectangle. So you'll bring it back to the ironing board just like this. You'll do a quick press and then you are going to fold it back like so, and press that seam. So as soon as I have those ready, I will come back and we will add our last piece and we will be done. Okay, so I have these pieces put together, and now all we have left to do is take our flying geese from the section 4B, the very beginning, and we're going to attach them right there. So we'll take one of these guys and one of these, and we're going to fold it down right sides together, and then sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right there. And they are asking us to press toward the D rectangle. So when we go back to the ironing board, we're going to lay them down like this. We're going to press that seam real quick just to close up all those holes we just punched in it. Then we'll fold it this way and press it. So once we have that done, I'll come back just to show the last pieces, and we will be all done with these clues, well, with clue 4. So I'll be right back. Okay, I have finally finished the last 6 pieces to the clue 4, well, for clue 4, and now the only thing that we would have left to do is trim up, which these are supposed to measure 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches. And let me see here, I have, where did I put that? Oh, here it is. Okay, so let's just see here. Okay, it's supposed to be 6.5 that way. So, all right, so it looks like I barely hit 6.5 down here on the bottom. And then everywhere else it's off by about 1/8 of an inch. And then as far as top to bottom, it looks like I'm barely off right here, and then it goes up to about 1/4 inch off right there. And then up there, of course, there's that big gap. So, like I said, mine are always off, but it always comes out beautiful, and I always love my quilts. So guys, if you are measuring up and you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's, you know, what's wrong? It's never right. Everything's off. I have to tell you that there must be someone out there who like sews and every single time everything comes out perfectly. But I have to tell you that I don't think I've ever had anything come out perfectly. And I'm a perfectionist. So, you know, I do my very best to get there. And, you know, I just think that none of us are perfect. That's what I think. And please keep in mind that I have done these quilts. Gosh, this is like my 5th go round, 6th go round, something like that with these puzzle mystery quilts. And they always come out gorgeous and I love them. And no one can ever tell that I was off by 1/8 of an inch. I mean, honestly. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And I don't ever, like, even if the only way I would ever trim, like truly trim, is if I was much bigger, which, like I said, has never happened. So all I ever do is I just take a ruler and I just clean up the edge. Like I said, with section 4A, I just clean up the edge so that it's not all scraggly like that. And so that when I pull my clues out, at least I feel, you know, like I'm fresh starting with each one. So I just make sure that I'm kind of lined up with something. And I just want to barely take anything off. It's not, like I said, I'm not trimming up because I'm already, you know, off. I just want to clean up the edge. That's all I want to do. So you'll see that my edge is clean and I've barely taken anything off. I'm just basically taking the little scraggly things off the end. That's basically all I'm doing. And let's see. It's actually good right there. So it looks like I have a little bit extra taken off, but I'm just going to do it because it makes it even, and it made it even with the ruler. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. Never do. I just do the best I can. Okay, there they are. I have 4 of the 4A blocks and 6 of the 4B blocks, and these are our clue 4. So I will put them in my little bucket, and I can't wait for next month. So you guys have a great time sewing, and I'll see you then.